I know I made my own amusement park ride, but this is gonna hurt. Ah, not too bad. All right, guys, welcome back. Before we begin today's festivities, let me just give you a quick update what I've been doing. So, as far as the bed is concerned and the hydraulics and how everything is working, so far, I haven't had any issues. I think it was just a matter of getting all the air bled out of everything. And then I did find a couple loose connections on that solenoid because that stuff just, comes right out of the box. Some of it was loose. But I think now that it's cycled through a whole bunch of times, I think we've got everything worked out and everything seems to be operating just fine. And then as far as the bed coming down too fast right at the end, that actually has improved as well. And it is not as bad as it used to be. All right, as for the rest of the stuff, I've got pretty much everything under here taken care of and done. I went ahead and added a couple more cross members. I put one right here, and then I put another one down there. And when I put this cross member in here, I discovered that my battery was a little bit too high. So I went ahead and added a piece of angle iron to the battery tray to lower that battery down just a little bit. So now that cross member just goes right over the battery and the pump, and I got plenty of room in there to get to it. Now, I opted to mount everything inside the frame rails because I did not want to see anything out here. So, if I ever have an issue or the pump fails or the battery or whatever, that'll be future Wally's problem. But right now, everything is good to go. Yeah, it won't be too big of a deal if I have a problem with the pump or whatever, or the battery. I can get in there from underneath and unplug everything and get everything out. It's just not that convenient. Plus I can lift this bed up with a jack or whatever too if I need to, and then just prop it up to get under there as well. So not too big a deal. And I've just been testing this thing up and down, cycling through everything. Everything seems to be operating. I got everything greased up, all the pivot points. The guide plates and everything are working out just fine. What else did I do under here? I think that's pretty much it. All the wiring is taken care of and done. I did run a cable from this battery to the truck battery, so now these two are connected to each other, so that will get a charge. And I think everything else under here is good to go. I was working on the hitch plate as well, taking care of some loose ends on this. I went ahead and used my welder and burned this thing in. I cranked it up as high as it would go, and it seems like it was burning in okay, but I'm gonna finish this off at Barry's shop with his welder later. I welded on the D-rings there for the chains, and then I went ahead and added a couple really big supports right in here in the middle, and then also a giant piece of angle iron as well here just to support all of this stuff, you know, from any forward and backward movement. And then underneath the bed here on the sides, I went ahead and added a plate here, same thing on the other side. And then again, I'll burn all this stuff in over at Barry's place with his welder. And then back here on the hinge support, I added this brace here just to tie all this stuff together, to give it a little extra strength. I think that pretty much gets you caught up as far as what I've been doing. This kind of took me a full day, day and a half, really, just to take care of all these little loose ends. I didn't film any of it, just didn't figure it was necessary. And I really just wanted to get that frame structure done on this flatbed. So aside from wiring and the wood deck and stuff like that, it's done. One more thing I did as well, this is the remote for the pump. Now this thing was just hardwired to the pump directly, and you just have to wad this thing up and shove it somewhere. Well, I didn't really want to do that. So I went down to O'Reilly and I got a trailer plug, one of the 4-ways, and I put a plug on it. And then I ran the plug right here, just made a bracket to weld on the gas tank strap. So now I can just take the plug and try to do this one-handed here, and I can just take the plug and plug it in. Everything seems to be working just fine. Haven't had an issue with it yet. The only other thing I might do back here, I may add a piece of angle iron from this cross member to the truck cross member, and then I'll just bolt it up right here where all these holes are, and it'll be real simple. I'll weld it to this and bolt it to this. That should give that a little bit of extra support, because when that ram is down, it's definitely going to be pushing on it pretty hard, so I want to make sure that's good to go. Appreciate all the previous comments, you know, on the last video about the ram, and a lot of people were concerned that it was bottoming out and all that, but that's the way I was told to set it up, was to make sure it was bottomed out. Yeah, and you know, or run a limit switch if it's not bottomed out. I could do that as well. It seems to be okay, and that pump does have an adjustment on it to adjust the pressure coming down, because it's double acting. So I think I'll play with that as well. I just haven't gotten around to it. And then also, my buddy Barry's got some extra rubber bumpers, and I'm gonna make some brackets off the frame of the bed to the frame of the truck, and we'll put that rubber bumper in there. That way when that thing comes down, it's got a nice little cushion as well. All right, so other than having to weld up a few things with the hitch plate and whatnot at Barry's, again, that pretty much takes care of it. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I know a lot of guys are still very concerned about the stability of it and having the single ram on this thing. And I do hear you, and I understand all of that. And I didn't run dual rams because right now I know that ram is capable of lifting the car. So the Maverick is about roughly, I don't know, I'd say 2,900 pounds. You figure it's going to lift half of that, maybe a little over half of that weight anyway is all it needs to lift. And I know that thing is capable of doing that. And then as far as the stability is concerned, this thing's always going to be on level ground. It should be anyway when I'm loading a car on it. And now that this thing is all welded up and tied in the back here, it is very stable. The suspension moves and flexes before the bed even thinks about moving. So basically, we're going to do it, and we're going to try it, and we're going to see how it all works out. And if it works, great. If not, then you guys can laugh at me later. So, some guys were worried about the angle of the ram as well, but I think we're going to be just fine. I think it's going to push up on it. Once that weight gets moving, we should be fine. I am actually thinking about trying to find something I can stack on the bed of this thing. If I could stack like 1,000 pounds on the front of it, that would really be a good stress test to see how it's all going to act and how much the cross members are going to move, if any. And, you know, I'd rather test failure points with something else where I can see it, you know, before I put the wood deck on or something. So I'm trying to figure that out. I do have a whole bunch of cinder blocks here in the backyard. I might be able to just stack, even if I could stack 500 pounds worth on here, I think that would be worth trying it anyway. So that's a whole lot of blabbing to say basically I'm ready to move on from the flatbed for now anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and work on the lights, the tail lights. I want to get the tail lights done on this thing, so at least that's legal and I can drive it around. And let me show you what I'm doing with that. All right, as for the tail lights themselves, this is what I'm using. I'm using the OG crusty tail lights that were on this flatbed originally. So I'm not going to put anything, you know, modern or anything like that on there. I do want the old crusty look of it, you know, because I want it to look like an old crusty patina truck. So I'm going to convert these to LED. I ended up getting one of these lights from Harbor Freight, and I took the LED circuit board out. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did on the front marker lights, the turn signals up there. I'm going to do the same thing. I didn't want to torch holes in the winch plate to put round lights in with, you know, the rubber gasket. I didn't really want to run those. I didn't like that look. So these tail lights are going to mount right here, basically, right on each side of the winch plate. And this is just out of the room. I had the bed all the way up, and it just clears them. So I marked my holes on each side where they need to be. And then as far as the 3 lights in the middle, this is the original marker light assembly off of the flatbed as well. And this is a pretty cool old original piece, you know, it takes the glass lenses and all that. And then the back cover plate comes off of it to access all the wiring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. And then when I was up at that antique store in Prescott, Arizona, that guy has a whole bunch of the old glass lenses, the original ones. So we're going to put the old original glass lenses in. The only thing I don't have is the clips that hold them in, the little rings, snap rings, but I'll figure something out for that. So we're going to put those in there, and then again I'm going to use these little 1-inch or 3/4, whatever these are, LED. So again, I really like having the stuff that just looks period correct and old, but it's got modern features to it. So I'm just going to take this other lens apart and get these things ready. Now, before any of you guys in Australia or over in Europe are giving me a hard time about having taillights with, you know, the 3 different colors, or having amber and then red as well, you know, so when you hit your brakes, you've always got double brake lights and turn signals are on a separate circuit. Well, I don't want that look, first of all, and it's not required here for that. Technically, with this truck, I could literally get away with running 1 taillight on this truck and it'd be 100% legal here, and they wouldn't say a word about it. Just because of the age of the vehicle, they don't require any special lighting or any of that type of thing. So that's why I'm just going to keep this with really simple old school lights. I know some of you guys were, when I wired up those temporary trailer taillights when I drove this thing around the block, some guys were commenting about that, you know. Here in the US, we do things a little bit differently, so... But these old rigs like this, any of these old vehicles like this, they generally don't bat an eye at them. But I do want bright LED lights because I don't trust people, you know. So, but if somebody rear ends the back of this thing, whew, it's going to be a bad day for them. All right, got the light sockets deleted. Now, I got to take this other light apart. If I remember, these things came apart fairly easily. I just broke the plastic off. Couple screws. Snip the wires. Voila. So now I just got to figure out a bracket that I can screw this circuit board to. So I'm going to mess with that a little bit, see what I can come up with. I know this probably seems like a lot of work, because you can just buy those LED bulbs, the 1157 replacements that are LEDs, but I really don't like those things too much. I've never really had any good success with those anyway. I just don't like the way they look, and they're not as nice as the circuit board. This really spreads out that light, you know, and I think they're a lot brighter too. All right, guys, I got one done here, and of course I completely overcomplicated this. So, I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, the best solution. One of the problems that I had was the circuit board here, where the holes are that mount it, they actually contact the ribbon in there, so I couldn't have metal on metal. I needed it to be plastic underneath this thing contacting it, or at least to be safe. I wanted to make sure I didn't want to ground any of this circuit board out, you know. So what I did was I made this little bracket here, and then I tack welded some screws on it, and then that's going to weld inside the bottom of this here. It'll weld in there like that, and then on this I have these little plastic towers, and these little plastic towers will screw on. I can screw them on by hand, and they tighten up nice and tight like that. And then I got some screws that will go through the circuit board that will screw that on the circuit board onto that bracket that will be welded in the bucket. So yeah, it just turned into a total headache. So not really, but just trying to figure out the best solution for it. Just basically trying to center this thing up, just eyeballing it. We don't have to be absolutely perfect in here. All right, now I could take this plastic bushing, just screw it on there by hand, and it's tight enough I can get it all the way down. And then I could take the circuit board. Let's just mock up. I'll deal with the wires here in a little bit. I just want to make sure this is all going to work. Looks like the holes line up. These screws are a little bit too big for the hole in the circuit board, so I just got to get them started. Well, that'll work. The lens clears. I just have to extend these wires now to run them through the original opening here, and then I'll put a plug on it, and then we'll just plug it right into the truck and keep it simple. But of course, keeping it simple went out the window a long time ago. All right, slight change in plans. I was getting ready to drill the holes in the bottom plate down there to mount the taillights, and I realized, wait a minute, that's 1/2 inch plate, and these studs only stick out about 1/2 inch. So unfortunately I had to make a little compromise, but it's gonna work out just fine. So I wanted to put the taillight right there on this plate, but I can't do that because it's too thick. So I just welded these little thinner tabs on down a little bit lower. Not exactly where I wanted them. Ideally, I wanted the taillights up here, but I can't do that because the bed swings down all the way down to here and it's in the way. So I have to run them down low. I did think about welding a bracket onto the bed right here and then having it drop down. You know, basically having it kind of suspended right there on a piece of tubing or whatever, and I could put it there exactly where I want it. But for now, I'm just gonna put it right here. And we'll see how it works out right there. I think it'll be all right though. Unfortunately, these jobs are full of compromises. I might change it later, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes for now. I was really kind of hoping to have the tail lights and then the 3 marker lights up here kind of all in one line together, is just for aesthetic reasons, is what I would like to have. I mean, we can't have everything super nice and neat anyway. This thing still needs to look like an old lumber truck. Yeah, it's not bad. Looks a little bit like Mickey Mouse ears, but it is what it is. When I get the 3 lights up there, balance everything out, it'll look okay. And then I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put a backup light to somewhere, not sure. I might mount some LEDs or something, some nice slim line LED lights or something, tuck them up underneath where you can't really see them, maybe for backup lights. The backup lights I'll have to figure out because I have to figure out with my custom shifter now, I have to figure out how I'm gonna wire in a switch onto the shifter. I've been looking at micro switch or one of those ball roller in micro switches, you know, and I could put like a little indentation on the shifter rod as I pull it into reverse, it'll trigger it or something like that. Otherwise, I'd be perfectly fine just putting them on a switch, and then as needed, I can turn them on. So. Yeah, so you can see how the bed comes down and takes up this whole part of the frame, so I can't put anything here. So, like I said, worst case scenario, I could put a bracket on here, but then that's gonna, I guess I don't want to do that, because if I do, it's gonna be, that taillight's gonna be way down here. Not that it would matter, but they're fine right where they're at. All right, guys, lights are working. I just made up a quick harness here. Just ran it over, real simple. So this plug here is for the rest of the running lights, so that'll do the 3 marker lights there, and then the 4 lights on the 4 corners of the bed here. And then this one is for the backup light, so I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do with that later. All right, so that takes care of the main tail lights. Let's go ahead and figure this out here now. All right, so with these lights, obviously I don't need the old sockets, and I was trying to figure out how to incorporate these into there, but then I got to looking at this and I'm like, I was like, man, that light socket just might be the right size. So what I did was I took the rubber grommet off. So now what I can do is just run the wires through here. And then lo and behold, that little plastic socket basically fits perfectly. So I think that's gonna work out just fine. I'm just gonna do that. Super simple. Yep, super easy. Cool, that'll work. All right, now I need to mark this one out for the harness. 3/4 of an inch to the center. Three-quarter center. I'll tell you what, this Tap Magic stuff makes a big difference with drill bits. Sure does make it easier. Let me see if that hole is big enough. It's off a little bit, but we'll be all right. I'm gonna run with it. Oh, there it goes. It just popped in. We're good. All right, let me get the bolts. There we go. That looks good. All right, let's see if those work. Are they working? Oh yeah. Those are nice and bright too. Yeah, those are bright too. They look good. Cool. And then with the glass on there. Stay. Oh yeah, that'll look good. As long as I don't knock into it with the hitch or something, trailer or whatever. That'll be the only drawback to it. But I could put, well, I do want to weld the top plate on this right here anyway. So maybe I can do something that'll kind of protect that. So if something does come up in here and lift up on it, it should catch it, hopefully. But I do have extra ones of these in case I do break one. Now every light on this truck will be LED, which will be really nice. So. All right, let me figure out what I'm gonna do with this glass real quick. All right, guys, less than ideal, but I went ahead and just kind of bent those over. Just gave them a little crimp in 4 spots, so they're not bad. They don't move around. They're pretty solid, so it should be all right. All right, so these corner lights, these actually fit in this hole perfectly, so I could, in theory, I could just put those in there like that and be done with it, and it'd be simple, but I don't really want to. I don't like the look of it. Now, when I got the flatbed from Pete, these lights were on there. There was 3 of these, and then there was 1 old school glass one. I can't find any more of the glass ones. I mean, well, okay, honestly, I haven't really looked all that hard, but I did get extra glass lenses, the amber ones. So if I can figure out a way to kind of mount those, that's what I'd like to do. But I also have these old cast aluminum, old school, trailer lights. I mean, these things are new, they still make these. So I thought about just converting this to LED, which would be really simple. And these would look good. They'd give me a good range of light, So I think I might do that. I might go ahead and use these. I've been kicking these things around for years and have never used them or done anything with them. I figured this is a good chance to do it. And they look old school, they look the part anyway. All right, so these things are just a little bit too big. So they don't need to be trimmed very much, just a little bit. I'm just gonna try to guess here. Right there. Yeah, right there. It's amazing how fast aluminum transfers heat. All right, I had to put a glove on. That's freaking hot. I think that'll fit just fine. Yeah, that looks fine. Nice and tight. And I'll just leave them raw aluminum too. All right, I'm just gonna grind up the other 3. All right, I put the light in the hole, and now I need to drill 2 holes for the bolt. So I'm just going to eyeball this basically. Okay, let me figure out a backer here for the lens to hold that thing in place, and then we'll be good. All right, guys, I just cut a little piece of foam there to go around that. At least that'll just put pressure on that lens, you know. So let's see if I can get this thing in there. Keep it all balanced. And okay, lens is tight. Looks basically straight. Looks all right. All right, let's run a jumper wire and see what it looks like. Got it grounded. It'll work? Oh yeah, that'll work. Of course, I can't really see it, but I can see that it's lit from the backside. Look in the camera. Oh yeah, that'll work. That'll be just fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out the rest of these real quick, and then we'll take a look at them. All right, guys, I think I got it wired. Let's give it a test, see if they work. Okay, this one works, that one works. That one's working. And that one's working too. Oh yeah, that looks good, I like that. And then I drilled holes through all the cross members and then just ran a really heavy gauge wire all the way down. And then just kind of ran everything this way, connected it. And then I bought some of these plugs from Amazon. So I just got it plugged into there. I'll tie all this up later, I got to figure out, I'll put the bed up and make sure I got enough clearance and everything. Everything looks all right. I got a loop in each corner, give myself a little extra too, zip tied up. So looks pretty good. And the amber one looks pretty good too. So I'd like to get the cab lights put on this thing now. I just got to put these on, and that takes care of the lights for the truck. So, but again, I'm going to convert these to LED. If I just drop an LED, one of these in there with no grommet, and same thing, if I drop this thing straight in, it works just fine. Come on. Don't make a liar out of me now. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Okay, there. So that light, that drops right in there perfectly, but the only thing I don't like about it being straight up is most of that light is concentrated straight up. So I'd like to try to kick this so it's pointing forward, and it'll look better in the lens anyway. I think it'll be more like a regular light bulb. So I just need to figure out kind of how to mount it like that is what I want to do. So I think what I'm going to do is, these things are old and crusty anyway, and they actually still make these. I think I'm just going to cut these. I'm going to cut a notch in the front side of this so this thing will kind of rest down in there. And I think that'll work, but let me try it and see what happens. It's got to go wider, but it gets me started anyway. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm at least going to try it. It's worth a shot. I'm just afraid to go over. I think we may have gotten it though. I'm going to push that down like that. Okay, that's it right there, but I need to twist it just a little bit. If it will, without breaking it. Okay. And some of you guys are laughing at me, and that's okay. I get it. That won't be bad. That'll be fine. I wish the light was a little bit higher in there, but it'll be fine. I actually tilted it up just a little bit. Just gave it a little tilt. And it's in there tight. It's not coming out. So it's not going to fall out anyway. But yeah, I wish it was up a little bit higher. More in the middle up here, but it'll work just fine. All right, I think I can use the original hole for the wiring. It looks like it. Yeah, it'll work. I'm just gonna get these close. You can see it rocks just a little bit. It's just barely off. So, but that gasket will make up that difference. Of course, I have nothing to stand on up here. I need to see. Right there. Old rusty roof. All right, this is probably my second favorite tool next to the mag drill. Definitely worth every penny. Now don't freak out, but these are actually metric. They're actually an M5 because it's the smallest thing I've got. So hopefully that doesn't piss off the next guy. All right, and yeah, and then the screws are Torx bit too. Now I'm guessing they're in the right place here, so I guess I should have checked that first, eh? Let's see right there. Okay, that one feels like it grabbed. That one's through. I hope this will fit okay. I hope it'll I might have to grind the light, but we'll see. Gasket's all the way around it. It's definitely squeezing the snot out of the gasket right over here. Okay, well, it's sealed over here. All right, that should work. Let me do the other one. It should be simple enough. I'm just gonna ground it right to the bolt sticking out for through the rivnet. I'll just ground it there. That'll be nice and simple. Okay. Got just enough room for a nut on there. Perfect. Oh wait, that's an 8mm. I don't have an 8mm on me, so it's going to be vice grip. That size vice grip. That's how all metric hardware should be treated, with a vice grip. Just kidding. All right, cool. That's easy. Now this can just be shoved in here up on the top along the roof. I don't know what I'm going to do for a headliner yet. I would like to, I was thinking about doing the wood, maybe the wood one or the, the cardboard one that they, like the door panels. But one thing I noticed with the door panels I don't like is any kind of moisture. When it was raining real heavy a few weeks ago, these things will warp and do all kinds of goofy stuff in the different temperatures. And they popped out already out of this little channel and everything. So that's one thing I don't like, which I kind of knew they were going to do that, but it is what it is. It is cardboard after all. So yeah, I'm a little worried about doing the headliner. They do make a PVC one, a plastic one, then I can either paint it. I would like to put some kind of material on it though, just to soften everything up a little bit, like some leather maybe or something like that. Even just a nice carpet, even I'd be fine with that, even I don't care. I will put that peel and stick sound deadener up here as well, just to kind of, like I did with the doors, just to take that tinniness out, but I don't know. I will worry about that later. That is not high on my list right now. Let's see, let me cut it a little bit long, give myself some extra room. And then I gotta drop the wire down the A-pillar. Now luckily this thing is super easy to wire these up because the motorhome wiring harness had a separate provision just for marker lights up on the roof, and it was marked and everything from the factory. So that makes it super easy. And the way the harness laid out in the truck, it's perfect. It's sitting right down here at the bottom of the A-pillar, so it worked out. Couldn't have worked out better. And do you think the motorhome company would have used that plug for the upper lights on the motorhome? No, they didn't. They just scotch locked into the wiring harness down by the headlight for the marker lights. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Okay, that's done. That was easy. All right, now I just got to get this wire down the A-pillar, plug it in, and we'll get it tested. All right, everything's hooked up. Let's give it a shot. Will they work or will they not? Of course they do. All right, cool. Yeah, they both work. Looks good. That'll work. All right, cool. I've been dying to get those things on. Now, in case you're wondering, that is what the truck came with originally, was just 2 of those lights. It didn't come with the, 5 normally, traditionally. So I'm just gonna leave just the 2 on there because I kind of like just the 2. It's a little different. Definitely happy with that, looks pretty good. So thank you, Pete, for the lights. I appreciate it again. And I'll trim that rubber gasket and whatnot later. I'll get up there and I'll work on that and trim that out later. All right, I think it's official. All the lights are done, except for the license plate. And I'll do that later once I figure out a mount and where I'm gonna put it. Okay, let's move on here. On to the next thing. Ooh, boy, this thing is dirty. Let's say we move on to something a little funner. Not that all that stuff wasn't fun, but I'm kind of tired of doing heavy fabrication work and I'd like to move on from that stuff. It was nice and relaxing though, doing all the wiring. That was definitely a funner thing to do, but we're gonna move on to the seat. So as you saw, pulling that bench seat in and out of this thing is definitely not convenient. And a lot of you guys mentioned that way back when I was doing the doghouse and getting the seat put in here and whatnot. So I have a remedy for that. Let me show you. All right, check it out. OBS Chevy truck bucket seats. Well, what do we have here? Check this out. That there's an Apache, boys. Wonder what he's doing over here. Was not expecting to see that this morning. So I found these on Marketplace a couple of months ago. And again, OBS Chevy truck, these things are like cherry. I mean, they're almost in perfect condition. And they do have the armrests on them. And of course, they're flip-flopped right now, so that's passenger and that's driver. The armrests will go in the middle. I decided to go with these. I figured they looked good enough, and I didn't have to spend a bunch of money on having them recovered, so I think they're going to work out pretty well. The bench seat, I do like. I do like the bench, but having to lift that thing in and out of the cab was just going to be too much of a headache. So that's why I was on the hunt for buckets. So if you're not familiar with this build, the engine I did put underneath the cab in the most inconvenient place possible, but that's why it's called the COE. And then I do have a doghouse that I built over this thing. And if I need to access this engine and whatnot to service it and work on it or whatever, and if I'm out on the road or whatever in the middle of nowhere, I don't really want to fight the bench seat. I think it's going to be easier to just unbolt a couple different bucket seats and pop them out each side and then take the doghouse cover off to access the engine. Now, when I cut the floors out of this truck and I welded in this new floor, right underneath here, from basically right here all the way up to here, there is a big heavy piece of 1/8 inch plate steel in here that I put in. And then there's also the layer for the floor. So this thing is double layered worth of steel. It's really thick right in here. And I covered this whole area with the steel plate just so I would have room to bolt whatever seats I decided to bolt down. I would have plenty of surface area to drill and bolt to. Plus, I like bucket seats anyway. They're just going to be more comfortable, and I really like having armrests. And I think they'll look good. The color, I'm just going to leave the color alone. The front side of it here has a little bit darker brown. So I think that darker brown will complement the door panel and the armrests and then the visors and all that. I think it'll all tie together pretty well. So I did make some measurements of the bucket seats versus the bench seat. And the bottom pedestal here is the exact same height on the bench as it is the bucket. And basically the top of the seat measurement was the same as well, close enough. So I do know that I want these seats to be 1 inch higher because that bench was actually just a little bit too low in the truck. But I'm going to throw this in there just to make sure that I want it 1 inch higher because I know the foam was pretty wore out on the bench. But I do think I want to raise these up 1 inch. And then the other problem that I have is going to be the placement of the legs themselves. So this is going to enter the inner one. This is going to be the passenger seat. So this inner leg here is going to interfere with the doghouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock this off the track and everything. I'm going to move it over a little bit. So this pedestal here will be kind of like almost right in the middle of the seat, if you will. And then this is just going to overhang the doghouse itself. I think that'll work out okay. Not exactly 100% ideal. It'll be very similar to like a van. If you see old van seats where the pedestals for the seats were really narrow because of the floor and the door opening and stuff, it'll be basically just like that. Now, I haven't set these things in here yet, so I'm hoping that this is going to work out. And obviously, they're not going to sit on here perfectly. They're probably going to fall in the engine compartment. There, that's on the, so yeah, they're way off, of course, side to side. And then the tracks are, the bases are all the way forward, so that means the seat's all the way backwards, so should be okay there. Just have to get it to where it's just off the back of the wall. Yeah, they're definitely obviously shifted way over. So this needs to go over quite a bit. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm thinking. I'm gonna put the doghouse in real quick. And then I'll probably just remove this side rail first and then set the seat in there. And yes, I let it completely rust out in the backyard in the rain. Wasn't really worried about it, honestly. Okay, now when I built this thing, it was going to be covered by the bench seat, so I didn't care what it looked like. But now with bucket seats, I may revisit it a little bit and I don't know, maybe try to round off the corners or angle one of the corners. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what it looks like with the seats in here. I'm going to have to cut these front brackets off though. The seat's going to go right up against the doghouse now. So I guess I should do that first before I do anything else. All right, just like that, brand new. I just ran over that thing with the DA real quick to knock off all that rusty stuff. I don't want it all over my seats. This should be pretty straightforward, but this should be pretty straightforward. Now this is the same steel here where this is bolted up. It's the same all the way across. So I think moving this thing inboard is going to be fine. That is the right one, right? Yeah. All right, that's simple enough. Now, I think what I'm gonna do is we'll just move this thing over, essentially like that. Let's go ahead and throw this thing back in the truck without this on there, and then I'll figure out how far in or out this needs to be. This back. I'm hoping an inch will get me up above the doghouse, but it might not. I'm hoping I don't have to modify the doghouse too much, but I may have to. All right, let's put just a piece of 1-inch tubing under here. I just need to see if 1 inch is going to be enough. I don't know. Put this in there. Oh wait, that's not an inch, of course. I think it's going to be close. All right, let me get this seat centered in here, I guess, to where it looks good. All right, let me climb in here. See if I can just kind of get this thing where I think. Okay, the height is fine. Definitely good with that. I can even go up a little higher if I really wanted. It needs to go over though, just a little bit. I'm close to the center, but I'm shifted over this way just a little tiny bit. Let's see, let me try to do this without knocking that tubing out. Okay, let's try that. Okay, that's pretty good there. That's not bad. That's centered more. Got a little more room over here. Plenty of room there, of course. Okay, that feels pretty good right there. Let's see if I can get out of here without knocking it all over. All right, let me look in through the back window here. Gosh, I think it still needs to go over. But I really can't go, oh man. Okay, this did not quite fit like I thought it was going to. I thought the seat was going to fit further over to me and I'd be able to put that thing in here in the middle, but I don't think that's going to work out like I wanted it to. I might have to build a frame that goes up and over and then bolt the seats down to the framework. I might have to do that instead. Which kinda sucks. All right, let me play with this for a little bit. I'm just gonna sit here and think and measure and see what the best solution is, I guess. Yep. Remember when I said this should be pretty straightforward? Okay, changing plans again. All right, so obviously we had to do just a little modification to the engine cover. Basically, I'm gonna turn this thing into part of the floor and the seat mount, essentially. So the seat will be mounted, half of the seat will be mounted to this. Let me throw it in the truck and I'll explain. Okay, so when I built this engine cover, I made it essentially out of the same materials that I made the floor out of. So it is good and strong. It's got good strong tubing in it and whatnot. So the problem I was running into was I was looking at building a framework that went up and over the doghouse to the other side and then bolting the seats to that. But the problem was it was making the seat too high. I didn't want the seat any higher than I had it. So what I decided to do was go ahead and chop out these sides as you see. And I'm gonna lower this way down, and then I'm gonna make this a structural part of the floor. Because when this thing is bolted to the floor, it's one with the floor basically. It's strong enough, it's heavy enough. I'm not worried about it safety-wise or whatnot, having the seat connected to this. I'm not worried about it at all. This is gonna be just as good or better than the bench seat. The bench seat only has 2 points of contact too. It's got one over here and one over there, and then the rest of the seat just bridges anyway. So I'm still giving it 4 points of, 2 points of contact with the buckets. And again, I'm gonna add more tubing to this and some little bit heavier sheet metal that I can bolt to. So as you can see, I got the AC compressor in here, so I will drop this thing down as close as I can get it. Well, I mean, this is the highest point of the condenser, the adjuster here, so I'll drop it down that's a good almost 2 inches I can drop this thing down. So that'll help me a lot, just dropping this down. I really don't want to mess with the main lower part of this structure. I've already got this all set up, and I really can't change the floor either as far as the squareness of it, because I don't want to get any closer to the compressor, and anyway I don't want to mess with the floor and all that. So what I'll be able to do on the seat is I'll be able to use the existing stand right here, and then this is the other seat mount, the inboard one. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to basically chop this thing down a little bit and we'll just make it shorter, but I don't know this measurement yet until I finish the doghouse. It doesn't even want to move yet. So as you saw in the first part of the clip there, I tried to bend these things with the torch and heat them up and whatnot. So this is 1/8 inch plate, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to recess this stuff into the engine cover. I decided to go ahead and just make one big chunk out of it, and I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, so I needed to bend this thing, as you see, and I tried with the torch, but of course that didn't work. So I don't have a rosebud, so I couldn't put enough heat into it to do it. And I tried a couple different methods and whatnot. Anyway, I ended up just cutting a slit in it with the grinder, as you saw in the time lapse, and then I just ran a weld right down in the seam. It'll be just fine. It'll be good and strong. But it turned out good. It didn't warp. I was worried that it was going to warp, do all kinds of crazy stuff, but it didn't. So now this thing will sit in here like that. But it'll be lower. It'll be a couple inches lower. See, that's gonna work, if at all. Now this thing does taper. It tapers up and it tapers in, so just gonna have to find the right happy spot. I think that's gonna work. I'm gonna cut some tube and put some tube down in here so this has something to sit on top of, and then it'll be double frame rail down there, if you will. There we go. Give it a little more backbone. Okay, let me take a look underneath real quick. Okay, oh yeah, we're good. All right, I don't know if you guys can see in there, but I am just off the AC compressor. I got just enough room, and then I'm just off of the air filter as well. It's really close. So that's the reason I did the 1/8 inch. I actually took this upper tube and I moved it inboard to give me more room out here. And I didn't want to put another tube down here, otherwise it would have hit the air filter. So we should be all right. We're a good 1/2 inch away from the air filter there. And with this being just, 1/8 inch plate, we should be plenty strong enough. I'll add some tubing back here behind the air filter and then down to cradle this part here to give it some extra strength. But in the middle there, I just kind of wanted to leave it open. But it'll still be plenty strong enough. Now I can access the power steering reservoir from back here behind the cab. But with this now, I might make a little inspection cover that I can take off. And then I've got really good access to it, so this actually might work out really well. Good Lord. Thing's not getting any lighter. Okay, now the hard part will be figuring out my height here. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use the pedestal off of the bench seat, because I'd rather chop this one up than chop the original one up. If I leave the original one alone, if I ever want to put these seats in something else or somebody else or whatever, I can just, then everything is unmodified and everything will match. So I'm going to do that. And this is where it was bolted up originally. So in case anybody starts giving me a hard time about mounting the seat to that engine cover, believe me, that thing's going to be way stronger than even the seat frame itself. So I do have 1-inch spacers underneath this leg as well, because this is going to help me raise the seat 1 inch. Okay, so yes, so obviously it's way too high. Okay, now this will enable me to check, I think, side to side to see if I'm close side to side, or if I'm going to have to move that seat track further in, I don't know. Now let me see if I can see if the steering wheel is close or whatever. It might have to move. No, actually that looks pretty good. No, I think we're good. We're basically right in the middle. That feels good. It's just way too high. So, okay, I know that's gonna work. Now I can figure out how far to chop it, basically. How do I calculate this? I'm tired. I'm fighting a storm right now too. I got a rainstorm moving in and I'm trying to get some of this done as much as I can anyway. All right, I think it's gonna have to go over that way a little bit, so I'm gonna have to move the track over. So, unfortunately for you guys, you're gonna have to wait till next week. I just had some rain move in. We have some storms coming in this afternoon, and then it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow as well. Pretty much gonna mess me up for finishing this up this weekend anyway. Yes, I have a cover, but the problem is the rain drives in from the south, and I pretty much lose half of this space anyway because the rain just goes right underneath the cover. I need to put some kind of tarp or something on the one side to block the rain. And then whoever did the concrete back here years back, all it does is just pool. So it comes from the driveway, the top part of the driveway, it just flows right into the backyard, right along in here, and it just, and I'm rolling around freaking 110 and 220 outlets and stuff with the welder, and I'm not going to mess with it when it's raining. So you can make fun of me all you want, I'm not doing it. But no, it's all right. It just sucks. I was hoping to get more done. Yeah, the seat thing definitely turned into more of a headache than I thought it was going to. So, but it's all right. It's good. This is going to work out. I think it'll be really nice, and it'll definitely be stout. That's where I'm at with this deal. So we got a little bit done this weekend. Not as much as I'd hoped, but it is what it is. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Do appreciate it. Let me know what you think, as always, and get out there. Go work on your stuff. Stay motivated on your projects as best you can. I'm sure some of you guys are coming into weather. I've been seeing some different things around the east and north, and Ohio, I guess, finally got the first snowstorm. And so I know some of you guys are going to be dealing with that garbage, but luckily we don't have to. All right, guys. Again, go out there. Go work on your stuff. All right. Have a great day. I'll see you next week.